TradeSquare is Australia's first business-to-business marketplace connecting people, brands and organisations into this diverse ecosystem in a unique global landscape. Through pivoting, transforming and reshaping, Australian businesses have an opportunity to create the model for the future that aligns with the world's needs and leveraging the power of a collaborative approach. Through the TradeSquare podcast, we will bring together dynamic, diverse and thought-provoking leaders from business, government and organisations to have conversations to further enable new thinking for the future. Welcome to TradeSquare, Australia's leading business-to-business marketplace. I'm Catherine van der Meulen, and joining me today is Dr. Jen Beer, Head of Health and Education, Regional and Remote for NBN. How are you, Jen?
Hi, Kath. I'm great, thank you. And yourself?
Good, thank you. So tell us, who is Jen Beer?
Well, I was born and raised in Perth, so even though I'm living in Melbourne now, so growing up in Perth, I was never very far from the water, and I was really, growing up, I had really strong values, family, friends, and basically anything that kept me close to the water. I'm also a proud Darlot woman from the Western Desert region of WA, and my grandma was part of the Stolen generation. So it's a really big part of my identity as well, and why I'm so passionate, particularly around health and education in the regions, particularly for Indigenous people. And my career has been a bit of a strange one to date, but a theme, I guess, throughout my career has been very much purpose-filled. So I came from a family of teachers and community and development, which is really it's really in my blood, to be honest. And so my career's spanned being a small animal veterinary surgeon to entering the not-for-profit space. I played volleyball for Australia for a number of years, then entered the telco industry, and then most recently at NBN. So it's been a bit of a diverse career, but one that's definitely allowed me to develop a lot of learnings and a lot of skills along the way.
And I'd love for you to share more about what your call to adventure was to joining NBN.
Yeah, so being in the telco industry since 2015, I really saw this role at NBN as a way to combine my passion for helping people and helping communities with my love of connectivity and tech. And I worked with many low socioeconomic and regional and remote communities through my time in the not-for-profit sector. And I really saw the benefits, but also the risks of being online as well. And so this role really allows me to work closely with key stakeholders across both of the health and education industries to ensure that people understand what internet options are available to them across Australia, but also making sure that people get safely online. So I feel very passionate about leading for NBN health and education in the regions. And really, as NBN shifted from more of a build organisation to one that's focused on running the network, it was a great opportunity to be able to join the organisation to help develop that strategy as they move forward.
So with a strong focus of yours being on enabling regional and remote Australia through education and health, are you able to share more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's very much been, the first part of my role here has been about working with the key stakeholders, as I said, across both of those industries to really understand some of the challenges, but also the opportunities and where it's working well, particularly the use of connectivity to generate some really positive social and financial outcomes. And so for health, this really means supporting both the patients, the healthcare providers, and also the medical facilities to move to more of a digitised state by providing that fast, reliable and secure broadband. And so, activities are things like creating awareness of the connectivity that's available across Australia via the NBN network, but also understanding where maybe people or organisations are having challenges and how we work closely with the retail service providers to make sure that that gets resolved. And we created things such as the video conferencing telehealth troubleshooting guide to help, in particular, healthcare providers where they may have had challenges with their connectivity to be able to do video consultations, which we saw was such a big part of COVID. But also, understanding where it is working well. And we've seen some incredible inspirational case studies, such as Simone Dudley from Therapy Connect, and also, across East Arnhem, where they're doing some remote telehealth consultations with GPs in Sydney and also specialists across Australia. And it's also about partnerships. So organisations such as the Australian Digital Health Agency, NACCHO, which is the National Aboriginal Community Controlled Health Organisation. And we're working closely with these key organisations to understand their future roadmaps and how we best support that through the NBN network. And then also the tech and innovation side. So how do we really enable the emerging technology that we're starting to see? So things like AI, edge computing, the point of care monitoring, virtual reality. I mean, we're seeing some pretty incredible things. And so from an education perspective, again, it's about working closely with those stakeholders. So anyone from, the Isolated Children's Parents Association to schools, to regional university centres, and really understanding how their curriculum is evolving and raising awareness of those connectivity options that are available to them. And how we best support online learning where face-to-face isn't possible, but also for some of these regional and remote schools to move to that sort of digitised state that a lot of the metro schools enjoy.
You touched on a few key people and organisations that obviously NBN has been working with. How have resilient, dynamic and resourceful individuals within some of those organisations really played a key role in working towards transforming Australian businesses?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think, through COVID, many businesses have been almost forced to transform in a way. So whether it's becoming, enabling a remote workforce or becoming more efficient. And it's really some of these individuals or these champions within the organisation that have the vision or the passion and really the patience, I guess, to be able to really drive the change within those organisations. And the tech is the easy part. So one of the key parts of change is really about that change management and really working with the people that will be embracing the technology so they can clearly understand what's in it for them. Because if people don't understand what the benefits are, then it can be really challenging to embrace a change and do something different. So I think, as I said, we've been forced to transform quickly, and a lot of businesses have, but those that will have that sort of successful, sustained transformation are the ones that are really thinking about bringing their people on the journey and co-designing to make sure it's something that can be embedded for the future of that organisation.
And so for you, what are some of the key steps that really enable businesses to create that successful and sustainable remote workforce that you spoke about?
Yeah, there's probably three things. And as I said, the tech is the easy part. So, the connectivity at home, the devices and the platforms for collaboration, that's almost the easiest part. The second is around processes that keep the team together when they're working remotely. And I think it's, we all talk about how easy it is to have those side conversations at the water cooler or when you pass each other in the corridor. How can you create that sort of environment as much as possible in a remote setting? And so much work goes into, managing an office. How can you sort of invest that energy to almost manage that virtual office? And then probably the third thing which is the most important part, is about the people. So working remotely obviously has a lot of benefits, and you hear about stories where people have replaced their commute with having dinner with family or exercising in the morning. There are a lot of challenges that people face. So where they may have had a difficult day at work, or just being at home, there are a lot of people in situations where home isn't necessarily that safe environment that many of us enjoy. So it's making sure that as a manager and as an organisation, that you can really keep your finger on the pulse with how each of the employees are feeling, and understanding where any feelings of isolation might be creeping in.
And what's a key message that you are super passionate about, that you are advocating and championing through your work at NBN?
So for me, I think the pandemic has really shown us, or just opened the door about what's possible, particularly with digital health and online education. And I think these two areas are really key to helping unlock some of the challenges, particularly for those living in regional and remote areas. And oftentimes they have been used by regional and remote community members for some time. But how do we really make sure that people living outside of capital cities are supported with the right technology, which includes the right connectivity, to make sure that they can engage in those activities properly. And for me, NBN's network is available to over 99% of the country. And so for us, it's around how can we create the awareness of what's available, but then also help work or continue working with these organisations, such as I said, the Digital Health Agency and NACHO and other peak industry bodies, to understand where they want to take it in the future. So we're really only just scratched the surface, and I think there's some huge things to come around, robotics, virtual reality, augmented reality. And so how can we continue to support that into the future?
Now, you've mentioned the word connectivity a number of times. Aside from that being a hot topic, I'm sure, in the office or even in the virtual office at NBN at the moment, what are the things that you are excited about that are in the discussion at NBN?
Yeah, so one of the key things is just really the digitisation of a number of industries, and really the NBN network and the role it plays in enabling the digitisation across those industries. So anything from agriculture to tourism, the arts, health, education, small business. Many of these industries are undergoing significant change, and so the requirement and the reliance on the NBN network has never been more important. And I think we really tested our mettle through COVID, with many people working from home, learning from home, and spending a lot more time at home. And so it's about how we can sort of move from that success and keep learning from that success, and make sure that the network can support these continuously digitising industries. And then the last part is really, particularly this week being National Reconciliation Week, how can we support Indigenous communities? And again, through COVID, we had a number of initiatives to support the connection of Indigenous communities who were otherwise very isolated. And we've got a reconciliation action plan number 4. And so we've got some really strong commitments about how we best support Indigenous communities. And so, particularly this week, but all throughout the year, it's a big focus of ours of how we continue that support.
And what are some of the ways that you actively challenge the status quo in your role?
Yeah, so for me, this was a new role for the organisation, and I'm part of a team that was formed May and June 2020. And so really it's around, as the organisation shifts from as I said, one focused from build to one focused on sort of how we run the network. It's been really defining NBN's role moving forward in these two key industries. So that's been a big change, for the organisation itself, but also for many of the stakeholders that we deal with about, how we can best support them moving forward. I think connectivity has long been called out as a barrier to access. And for me, the infrastructure is there, and it's about, how do we make sure that people are using it or understand where it isn't working, so we can fix it where it needs to be. So for me, it's really around how do we raise the awareness and make sure that the connectivity that Australia has invested in helps support the industries that need it most as they digitise.
And so over the last couple of months, TradeSquare has really been focused on celebrating women for International Women's Day back in March, and the theme of Choose to Challenge. How do you choose to challenge?
Yeah, I choose to challenge those instances where hiring is based on targets and where that outweighs really hiring based on merit. There are so many talented women out there, and I work with so many, and I've seen so many, across the industry. And so for people and for hiring managers, if you go about it the right way, you'll find them.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your world and your wisdom with TradeSquare.
Thank you, Kath.
For more information on TradeSquare, head to www.tradesquare.com.au and support Australian business economic recovery and growth with a collaborative approach to the future of business.